Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is John Goss. I'm former president of the Astronomical League. We are celebrating our 75th year as an organization. We began on November 15th, 1946. So throughout the year, we're hosting a number of activities, a number of Zoom presentations to spotlight amateur astronomy in general, and I'll also say a little bit about the Astronomical League. Tonight, we have with us Dean Regas, an astronomer at the Cincinnati Observatory. This observatory is pretty special, as Dean will be talking about here in just a few moments. It's one of the oldest in the country, if not the oldest public observatory. I'm sure he'll set me straight and get the numbers exactly right. But it's been around for about 175 years, 176, something like that. So it's a lot older than the Astronomical League. So we're kind of looking up to it instead of wondering what's going on. I think it has a lot to teach us because we're still in our youth. But anyway, I'd like to turn things over to Dean, and we can hear what he has and see what he has to say about Cincinnati Observatory. Dean?
Well, thank you very much, John, and thanks for having me here. It's a great pleasure to talk to you here today. I'm coming to you from the Cincinnati Observatory in the dome with the old telescope. The telescope that's behind me is one of the oldest telescopes in the world. It celebrates 176th birthday on April 14th. That's when it saw first light, April 14th, 1845. And so I will tell you a little bit about the telescope behind me and give you kind of a virtual tour of the place. We're going to be trying to use some various technological tricks. There's going to be camera changes. There's going to be great audio. We've got a chance of rain on the dome. We've got birds. We've got other people around here. So this is going to be exciting. This is like the observatory is alive here. We got a lot of things going on. But I've been the astronomer at the Cincinnati Observatory since 2000. And it's been my great pleasure to be the kind of the caretaker of this telescope and bringing it on to the next generation. And our main goal is education here. And so what we do is we just basically try to get as many people over here to look through the telescope. And now, of course, it's been very difficult in the last year. And I'll talk a little bit about kind of our COVID responses that we've had over the last year and things that we've done to still do some programming. But I thought we'd dive in a little bit to the history of the telescope and the observatory itself and share a few things. I'm going to share my screen here and we'll go on in and show you that. And let's see, here we are. And so here we have the observatory. And so this is the main part of the observatory where we that's the main building of the two buildings. This is the older of the two buildings. It dates back to 1873. And just a beautiful building with this great brick and the silver dome. And where we're located in the city, we're about 5 miles east of downtown Cincinnati. So we're very easily accessible by most of the city and the region. Now, of course, the downside on that is we're 5 miles away from downtown Cincinnati. So light pollution is definitely a problem for us. And that's why being a research institution really didn't kind of work out in the 21st century. So we made this transition to become a public a science institution, basically a place where you can come and use the telescopes and see these incredible buildings and incredible instruments. And then we can use our accessibility to our advantage. Although the skies may not be as clear, we have a telescope within easy reach of a lot of people, and we try to make this as accessible as possible. So that's our main building. We also have a secondary building, also called the Mitchell Building, named after our founder, Ormsby Mitchell, and that's the building that I'm actually in right now with the telescope behind me. And the telescope behind me, I gave you a little bit of a preview about it, but here it is. It is the, there we go. And this is the 1845 Mitchel Telescope. So this was made in Munich, Germany, shipped over to Cincinnati in 1845, 1844-ish, and went into service April 14th of 1845. It is a gorgeous instrument, and I hope to give you a little better views of this here shortly, but it's, in short, it's 11 inches in diameter. It's a refracting telescope, 16 feet long, made out of mahogany. Yes, that is wood. The tube is a wooden tube with brass fittings, Pretty much everything that's behind me was shipped over from Germany in 1845. And so what a joy it is to be able to work with this telescope and to look through this telescope and share views through this scope. This is something that should be in the Smithsonian someday. And as long as I'm around, they're not getting it. We're going to keep using this as much as possible. And I'll show you kind of the way it works a little bit here shortly. But this is our pride and joy, the oldest telescope in the Western Hemisphere, pretty much the oldest one outside of the Leviathan of Parsonstown. That's in Ireland. That's the oldest one other than that one that's still in service. So it's just an amazing thing to see. So in the other building, the first building I showed you, that's where we have our larger telescope. This is a 16-inch refractor made by Alvin Clark and Sons, dates back to 1904. So we call that one the new telescope. I mean, yeah, 117-year-old telescope is the new one. And so both of these telescopes are in great working order. On any given week, we use them pretty much when it's clear skies. And so we let people come and look through the telescopes and tour them, and also view through them as well. So these two instruments are just amazing to work with, and it's so great to have them here in these two buildings, especially since we're so conveniently located for a lot of people. So I thought what I'd do now is I'd switch over here to show you a little bit about the telescope and some of the pieces and parts to it. So let me end sharing my screen here, and we'll come back on into the full screen here. And so this is where the big technological change is going to happen. So if you will give me a short window here, I'm going to switch to my alternate reality, my other persona up there. That's on my phone. I was going to use the computer here, but it was going to be hard. I was going to carry it around, and I'm a one-person camera and sound crew. So that was going to end up in tripping and falling on things. So we're going to switch to the phone here. So John, are you ready for the switch?
I am ready.
All right, let's see if we can do this very smoothly. Hold on one moment, everybody.
If we had a drum roll, I'd be playing it in the background right now.
Okay, test this out. Can you see me and hear me?
We can do both.
Oops, say that a little louder. I couldn't hear you.
We can both see you and hear you.
Excellent, excellent. So from this point, what I'll do is I'll kind of walk around. I'll show you the telescope here that's behind me, and at least do my best to show that for you. Let me see here. Hold on for one moment. I was trying to, Okay, well, I guess that'll work. I can't see my screen very well.
Oh, you're working.
All right.
Look good. Look good.
Let me try this one more time real quick. Okay, let's see. Let's do a test. Can you hear me okay, John?
Yes, technology is wonderful.
All right, excellent. All right, well, we'll take it from the top here. In fact, yeah, that sounds good. Well, so I'll just kind of run through some of the special parts about this telescope and a little bit of how it works. So we'll come on over this way if you follow me right on over here. So we're going to look at the telescope here. Now, this part is, it's pretty incredible. The tube is 16 feet long. We'll show you there all the way up to the top. And the dome was built in 1904. So this is actually its third home. So it moved from Munich, Germany, to a hill overlooking downtown called Mount Adams, and then was moved to the bigger building I showed you earlier, and now is in the smaller Mitchel building. So the telescope works very easily. In fact, everything in here works pretty much by hand. So if I want to move the telescope, well, I just give it a little push, and there it goes. And so I can move the telescope back and forth like this. I can move it out to the side like this, and we could aim it up at anything we want very easily. There we go. So super simple to move around. This is just amazing, the technology on this, that you can just move around very simply to aim at anything you want up in the sky. So then, of course, if we want to actually see something, we have to open up the shutter. So the shutter's over here, if you'll follow me right on over here. Now, this was going to be the part that's going to be a little bit difficult for me to do with one hand, so I'm going to do my best. So we've got the shutter mechanism is pretty simple. We have a lock to open it. That's this right here. And then we have the rope and pulley here to open up the shutter. So let's see if I can open it up. Oh, nope, hold on. It's a two-person job here. There it goes. There we go. So there's our shutter opening up. And good, it's not raining today. That's a plus. So there's our shutter to open up the window. So very easy, just pull on that rope and away you go. Now, the other bonus as well, if that's the only window, and I didn't open up all the way, but there it is, there's our window to the sky. Now, if we wanted to actually see a different direction, we have to spin the roof. And that is over in this direction over here. And so over here on the wall, this is our little hand crank that will move the entire roof. And so there's a chain up there that connects to this giant gear, and we can spin the entire roof all by hand. So all I have to do is just turn this crank right here, and away we go. I'll get you guys really nice and dizzy.
I like hearing the noise of the crank and the chain. It gives it a lot more realism.
Yeah, that was real. That was going to get you dizzy there. That's for sure. So everything in here works pretty easily by hand, super easy to swing around and point at different things in the sky. The eyepieces that we use are all modern. So those are things, we use 2-inch eyepieces on these to do our viewing with this. And we can set that up really easily to move this around. So the scope is just such a pleasure to work with and so easy to use. Now, the one extra little addition here that's on the back, I'll show you this. This is our, try to get a better view of it. This is our clock drive in here. And so this is the weights that would drop to fall to see different, this would have a motor that would move the telescope to track the stars. Currently, this one is not quite functioning. So one of our members made an electric motor that is making a track to move across the sky. So really everything else other than that is pretty much original from the 1800s. But just a really gorgeous instrument to use. And we definitely would love to have people come out and visit and check out the telescope.
Oh, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So members of the public get to look through this telescope, correct?
Correct, yes.
Now, it's been my experience in observing sessions when you have the public look through your telescope, there are two types of people. Most people would come up and they kind of timidly look into it, not wanting to break anything, okay, and they enjoy it. And then the other type of person comes up and wants to command the telescope, move it around, up and down, left, right, this or that. Do you notice that at the observatory? There are people who like to move the telescope and others who are just kind of going, well, I don't want to break anything.
Absolutely. You get the two. Yeah, there's very little in between. You're absolutely right. So we try to impress upon people that, the historic nature of the scope and that, this is a priceless thing. But we also don't want it to be inaccessible. So we try to, show people how easy it is to move around, how easy it is to flip. And we do let people touch it. We do let people push it. We let people spin the roof and open the dome if they ask. And just when they do the viewing, that's when we kind of give the instructions is, you don't want to touch the telescope. And we always say, put your hands on your hips, hands behind your backs, that type of thing. And we do have an invention I'll show you here in a little bit, our own invention we use for COVID safety protocols also when we're taking turns looking through the telescope. That's something that we want to have concerns with also.
Well, occasionally you have the young person, the type, they know everything. They know how many moons Saturn has. They want to look through the telescope really badly, and you just know they want to grab it and take off with it. And I suppose it's kind of a balancing act. You don't want to discourage them, but you want to teach them the correct way of doing it too. So.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. We like to try to model it for everybody to show them, this is how you do it. and you kind of wait in line. Everybody goes up one at a time. But we've had that. It's been very. I can't even really think of any times where anybody's really grabbed it and it's took off or anything like that. There's the things you're looking at it and they kind of like drift off with it, and when they take their eye off, and then they're like and then they move their hand away. But we just say, well, we just have to find it and check it out again. I think it's a bigger problem when we use our portable telescopes outside. That's one that people just lean on and everything like that. But our viewing platform is very, I think, helpful for that. So everybody has to climb up this viewing platform to go up and do your viewing. And making that kind of, it's a one person at a time kind of thing works really well, I think.
Well, a telescope like this is ideal for looking at planets. And since you're 6 miles from downtown, that's what you're going to be looking at quite a bit. So it'd be giving you some pretty good views, I would think.
Absolutely. We've had some, amazing, we had a great view of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in December, great views of the moon, great views of the planets, just like you said. And it was a little bit of an adjustment for me coming here to say, all right, well, we're not going to be able to show you the galaxies, the nebulas, the star clusters, that our kind of go-to objects are going to be kind of small in stature. We have the bright stars, the double stars, some star clusters, but mostly the moon and planets. And for me, that was a little bit of an adjustment, but I'll be honest, the moon never gets old. And sharing views with the public, most of the people that come here have either never looked through a telescope or very rarely have looked through a telescope. And even showing them individual stars, like showing them Betelgeuse or Bellatrix or Capella, even that wows people, which you think like, okay, they've seen Hubble telescope images, they've seen things on TV, they're expecting like amazing stuff. And I usually do preface it and I say, well, this is not the Hubble telescope, it is a humble telescope. And so, but when I've had people see like really mostly cloudy skies and the only star I could see is Capella through the telescope, and I show them Capella, this little pale yellow dot, and I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing how cloudy it is. And they love it. They're like, oh wow, we're seeing a star trillions of miles away. And so that's one of the piece of advice is showing people the bright stuff does get their attention, that's for sure. The faint and fuzzies are great for the amateur astronomers, but the general public, any light is good for the general public.
Well, sometimes that people are kind of amazed when I tell them that I would never look at Capella. I guess I've looked at it through my telescope, but amateur astronomers really wouldn't look at a bright star in the sky unless it happens to be a double star or something unusual going on. But just looking at a star and you don't care about that. You want to go on to this other stuff. So
yeah, no, it was surprising to me too. And Cincinnati is not the notorious for clear skies. It's the opposite. It's pretty cloudy. So you get those halfway cloudy nights. And if you could find Vega, you're happy. If you can find Arcturus, you're happy. And it's and exactly, I thought, oh, this is going to be the most boring thing. And one of the things we also tried was we don't usually attach cameras to the scope. We do kind of direct viewing and looking through the scope. We've tried cameras and people seem really bored with that. They, like we could project onto a screen a view and show them. And there's just something about putting your eye up to that eyepiece that just captivates people's attention. And it just, the sheer joy of that. And the other thing for me as the astronomer kind of watching this is that's one of my favorite things is seeing the light up their eyes. Even if it's a moon and they're, the light hits their eyes and you can just see their whole face kind of just like relax. And it's just like, it's one of those moments. We're sharing this intimate moment with the universe through the scope.
Yeah, because they're the only person who is seeing that image. It's totally unique.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, we say that we could put a camera up there, we could beam it down to the TV downstairs, we could send it to your house. You don't even have to come here. what fun would that be? So we're like, and I think people really appreciate that. They know when they come here, what they're coming to take a little bit of a step back in time. That's for sure, to see these old scopes. And we know we don't have the cutting edge best technology, but what we do have is these. Our story about this is just incredible, and how we got the telescope and everything was pretty amazing.
Well, you talk about stepping back in time, and I know that if I were there and I was looking through that telescope, I'd be thinking, this is what it was like if you're a 19th century astronomer. I'm kind of sitting in that person's shoes, doing what that person would do. It's a history. You're living history in a way, right then and there. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the great things about working here, is that I do have that sense of history. I kind of, the observatory has been around for 176 years, and just being, one of the astronomers that's trying to keep it going and expand it to the next generation. It's very, being a little part of history is really pretty cool. And I do always get that moment coming into work, is thinking, how did they do this 175 years ago? Well, I do know one thing, is that the astronomer lived in a house nearby here. That we live in this is a historic district here by the observatory, and so some of these houses are pretty incredible. So they have not given me a house yet in the very nice neighborhood yet as the astronomer. That's the one historical thing that I hope that they could correct someday. But until then, I get a good feeling coming over here, and stepping back in time and feeling a little bit of what it's like to be a historical astronomer, I guess you'd say.
Mhm, mhm. Well, you mentioned earlier that the telescope was functioning during the Great Conjunction a couple months, 3, 4, 5 months ago now, with Jupiter and Saturn. Did you have a big crowd of people to look at that, or was it clear? Was it?
It was clear skies. It was incredible for December. December is our worst month in Cincinnati. You might get 3 nights the whole month that would be clear, but the night of the 20th, 21st, and 22nd were all clear enough here in Cincinnati to see the conjunction. So on the night of the 21st, I came over here. I attached my phone here to the telescope, took a little video through the historic scope, and I can share that with y'all later. Maybe you can even include it here. And we did not want to advertise, because we're open, but we're not open to big groups, and we knew the conjunction was going to be a big deal, so we didn't want a lot of people. So I was in here videoing. And then I could just hear people outside. And so I got my video, then it got lost in the trees by the time the big scope was not able to point at it. And I went outside, and there was just a whole bunch of people just standing around. And so we pulled out some portable telescopes and let them look too. And but yeah, that's the one big thing that I miss, is that we were just really, we're kind of now a nice little tourist attraction and destination that people come to. And our big events in 2019, I mean, we could have 100, 200 people here easy. And that's the thing I miss the most, is those big events around the scopes. And we've really had to be creative in the last year to do a lot of online content and small group programs here at the observatory.
Mhm.
So let me switch back to my regular camera here. And so we'll stop you getting dizzy here for now. So give me a second here. I'll switch back.
Alrighty.
In fact, I'll just leave that.
Oh,
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me okay?
good to have you back.
All right, I'm back in here. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of kind of our kind of changes we made since COVID. So mostly we do online programs right now. We opened up in July for very small groups, where we have a maximum of 15 people that we could come at a certain time. But the big thing that we were really concerned about was taking turns at the eyepiece. And like I said, using a camera was our initial thing, but people were kind of bored with the camera idea. And so we tried to figure out, well, how do we look through the telescope and share and take turns? So the evolution of this was, I started with a big piece of plexiglass, and I gave everybody a piece of plexiglass. They held it over top of the eyepiece. And it has since evolved into what we call the TOPS, the Total Optics Protection System. And this is example number one, a PVC pipe with a Petri dish lid on the top of it. And we give every couple or every group one of these. It fits over top of the eyepiece. And so everybody gets one of these, and they can take it from telescope to view. This is one of the early prototypes. And then we made a clear plastic one out of a poster tube and a top on here. And so, this isn't like CDC recommended, but it at least gets any germs on the eyepiece guard and not on the telescope. And we at least feel a little bit better that there's a little added safety protection between this. So
you realize that if NASA had developed that, that would be what, $5,000 right there.
Yeah, you're pretty close. This cost me $10,000 to make. No, just kidding. Obviously, this is a PVC tube that we cut off, and yeah, I found a lot of Petri dish things on Amazon, and yeah, this is our poster tube with a little clear. But when we're showing people the moon, it's like the view's good. So we're using that as a kind of extra precaution, a little extra layer of protection. And it seems to work really well with the scope, and people seem to be feel a little more comfortable about it. Hopefully in the next few months, we won't need that, and we can kind of be a little more open. But I'm happy to share. If anybody has any questions about how to make your tops, just let me know, and I can share the recipe for that. And yeah, I'd be happy to help.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thanks for letting me show you around my humble observatory here. Hope you enjoyed seeing the telescope. And if you have any questions about programming ideas, telescope ideas, feel free to contact me. It's Dean at CincinnatiObservatory.org. And I'm always happy to share tips, tricks, and ideas for programming too. We're really found some really creative ways to engage people in the last year, and always happy to help. And if you have some ideas to share, we're always loving to hear that as well.
Well, what do you expect the observatory to be doing in the coming year? Are there any big events coming up? Do you have anything special planned? Maybe a grand reopening at the end of this time?
I'm hoping we have two relatively interesting events coming up. We have the lunar eclipse on May 26th, but well, hold on for 1 second. My video got blurry. Let me answer that question again real quick. Hold on. Let me try my video one more time. Well, that's worse.
You're looking good there.
There. How's that? Is that better?
It's fine. That looks
okay. All right. We'll go with that one. So we're looking ahead to two very minor events. We have a partial lunar eclipse on May 26th and a partial solar eclipse on June 10th. We're probably not going to do much on those because they're super partials. So we're not, but we're really excited to have the planets back. Jupiter and Saturn are the two top awesome planets to see. So those will be back in August. We hope to do something a little bit more. So like I said, we're open to groups of 15 now. We'll kind of go in stages. Hopefully we'll be able to accommodate 25 and then maybe at 50 by the end of the year. On our radar is that lunar eclipse in November. That's a time where it's visible all across the country. And so that would be great. That would be awesome to have a lunar eclipse watching party in the middle of the night on a cold November night with lots of people. I'm optimistic. I know I'm naively optimistic for a clear sky in November late at night, but that's how it is.
It happens.
Exactly. You never know. Just like I said, we had 3 clear nights for the conjunction in December. And I couldn't believe that. So you never know what's going to happen.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that's great. That's great. And I appreciate you taking your time to show us around the observatory, uh, getting things set up for us and getting things situated just right. These are a couple amazing telescopes. The one that's right above you is really, really cool. I mean, it's
Yeah,
something.
it is unique. There's this is the same telescope that or the same brand that the Tsar of Russia had. It's a Merz and Mahler from Munich. It's also the same maker that's at Harvard. Ours is a little bit older than Harvard's, and just the story on this. We got this telescope by our founder going door to door asking for $25 in 1842, and his name is Ormsby Mitchell. He was like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of the 1800s, and he popularized the subject so much. He raised $9,200 in 1840s money, and then went to Germany to buy the telescope. And just yeah, it's just incredible that it's still in great working order. Not only good working order, great working order. The we did a laser test on it through the lens, and it was, it's 11-inch lens, and the laser came in only about a quarter-inch off when it was horizontal, where you get a little bit of flexing with the tube. But people see the wooden tube, the brass fittings, and they do ask me, they say, wait, this has been here 176 years? Exposed to the like cold, and it's been rained on, snowed on. This telescope should not work, but it does, and it works so well. It's incredible. It's like a magical instrument. It's just it's unbelievable. So we'd love to have folks come over and visit. uh, make the little pilgrimage to come out to see the oldest scope in the U.S. and say Dean sent me, and we'll let you in.
Already, already. I think you might have some people taking you up on that offer. In fact, I hear some people knocking right now. But
Oh my gosh, yeah, come on in. Well, it's not raining, but it is cloudy. So there's a typical Cincinnati evening.
but anyway, again, I want to thank you again for taking your time to do this. And to the people out there in cyberspace, again, this is the Cincinnati Observatory with our host and tour guide, Dean Regas, who has done an excellent job. I don't think anybody has fallen asleep during this tour. So it's great. I really appreciate you taking your time, Dean. So with that, we'll sign off here, and we'll see you all for our next talk, which hasn't been scheduled yet, but it will be soon. So thank you again.